Yes. Yes, that's common with harm and any of the OCDs. When we're sort of feeling responsibility for others, our brain will trick us that this is high stakes. We are, really doing something dangerous. And there's different ways of tackling that one thing is getting stronger with our skills. Really, if you are better at diffusion, you can see thoughts more as like bits of information that aren't necessarily true. You can see feelings in the same way. So there is a level where if you just get your skills stronger, you can find more trust in yourself. It's easier to face this sort of stuff. Another one is workability. Is like, okay, well, if I follow that through, OCD is going to make me avoid all kinds of things. And then what's that going to lead to? It's going to isolate me. It's going to mean I don't connect with people who are important to me. If I take it to the absolute extreme, it's going to completely ruin my life. It's going to harm me. Is that fair? Given that at least, part of me can see this as OCD, even if not all of me sees it that way yet. We can tap into that part of you that you wouldn't be on this course if there wasn't part of you that was connected to that. So we've got to try and connect to that part and go, well, workability tells me this will hurt me and it will hurt other people if I follow OCD, and it'll hurt them in the sense that I won't be connected, I won't be available, I can't make other people's lives fun and enjoyable, and it mostly harms me. Which then there could be a self-compassion thing, right? Because if I have higher self-compassion, I'm not going to want to harm myself either. Harm in the sense of emotionally harming myself by withdrawal and isolation and the pain of OCD. So self-compassion is another thing. If we really increase self-compassion, it's a little bit easier to face that. It's the main antidote to guilt, really. Guilt and shame. Compassion is such a tool in response to that. Other things we can do is like very gradual exposure, so we're building confidence, so it doesn't feel such a big leap. I mean, you're someone that you are actually doing lots of stuff, and then it's more about not doing the compulsions, I think, is where you feel the guilt. So that would be, okay, let's try and reduce them a little bit. Let's reduce the compulsions 60%, 50%, 30%. Like, find a percentage that I can try to reduce it that isn't quite as challenging, and then build my confidence there and reduce it more. For other people, it's like do smaller exposures and build confidence. If I'm around people with harm thoughts and I start, first of all, I'm around people with other people around, that tends to be easier, right? Because we feel somehow the responsibility is on other people as well to make sure we're not going to harm anyone. And then, so that might be step one. And then, the next step is actually we start to be with people alone. And like going straight to being with people alone might feel like a big leap. So, can we take a smaller leap and build confidence? So that would be another part. I'll give you a few of them. I'm not expecting you to remember all of these. This is where you want to go back over these recordings, back over these videos, make notes, really internalize what I'm saying, because obviously I give you lots of ideas and no one's going to remember all of this. Belief is another one. Like, you're still holding the belief that thoughts are very important and meaningful and feelings are very important and meaningful. Whereas me, as someone in recovery who's had harm OCD amongst other things, I don't think my thoughts are very important at all. And I don't think my feelings are very important at all. I don't think my feelings are always correct. I think my, nervous systems and the human our human animal is evolved to be very overreactive, very threat focused, very cautious, and it misfires because of that. And sometimes that would have been useful if it really was the dangers in the external world, like the saber-toothed tigers and everything like that. But when it goes inside and starts to see dangers inside us, it's not helpful at all, actually. It's a bit like an autoimmune disease where the immune system is helpful, but if it turns back on itself, it becomes really unhelpful. So that's kind of how I see it. Like, so I don't believe my thoughts are important at all. I believe my actions are important, and I believe I have choice and control over what I do. And I believe if somehow I lost that, it's not my fault. So if somehow I lost control and choice, that's not my fault. It's a tragedy, but it's not my fault. So that belief, I don't think there's high probability of that. I think there's very, very low, if very little to none probability of that. But even if there was probability, I don't believe that would be my fault, because I have self-compassion. And so those beliefs are much more helpful, right, than thinking, my thoughts are always important, feelings are really important. If I lost control, that would be all my fault, and I'd be a terrible person. And that high emotion indicates that's about to happen. That's another one. I don't believe that. I believe I can have massive emotions, and it doesn't mean anything at all. Whereas people with harm often believe, like, I can have massive emotions, and that's an indicator I'm about to lose control. So I think the belief level is another one. If we can identify what the beliefs are that are tripping us up, and at least see from psychoeducation and workability why they're not accurate and helpful, that won't change them. We've still got to then do the behavior to change them, but it's a step towards changing them. So yeah, that's some of the tools I would use on that. But there are points, all of that being said, there are points in exposure work where it feels like you are taking a big leap, definitely. I had moments where it was like, I'm not gonna, the one that comes to mind, it happened with lots of things, but the one that came to mind with health anxiety was the moment of like, I'm not gonna react like all of these things mean I'm dying. And that felt like a risk. It did at the time. It felt like a big risk, but I could see the damage that workability showed me, the damage OCD was doing to my life, and I wasn't going to do that anymore. So even if it meant I was, going to miss something and die, I wasn't going to do that anymore, because I had no life anyway, if I followed OCD. So there are moments where you feel like you're taking big leaps, and skills help that. I had built, when I was starting to take those big leaps, I'd built a lot of acceptance skills, a lot of diffusion skills, and that made it easier. Still not easy, but easier. So yeah, that'd be some of my thoughts. Actually, for the monthly review group I'm doing after this, someone's asked pretty much the same question. So you see, so many of these questions show up in OCD all the time. And that's another thing, actually realizing I'm not alone. Sometimes when you're in it like you are, you'll think, God, I'm the only one who feels like they're on the edge of flipping out and hurting people. And when you actually see other people and get a sense I'm not alone with this, that can help as well. Because you sort of look at someone else and you go, no, I wouldn't tell you to avoid people and to stop, looking after your kids or whatever it might be. So like, why would I advise myself to do something different here? So that, sometimes common humanity and connection can help as well, I think, with this stuff. Good question though, and a difficult one, because I could say even more, but there is still a point where you've got to take the risk and you've got to just go for it. And I'll take the blame. There you go. Someone who's had OCD in the past, I'll take the responsibility for it. So you imagine what that's like for someone who has OCD. If I can do that, you can do that.